Dave, how's it going?
Hey, Stu, doing all right?
How's the illness going?
Well, I'm just following the correct diet and low oxalate diet and some supplements. All things work out well, then it should correct the problem in time, 2 months or so.
The word of the week is vanity. You had the opportunity, plug the guy. But you had to make it personal. That'll get you killed.
Yeah.
Okay, next week, only a poor old man. Okay, Hellblazer. So where did I get up to?
Yeah. How far did you
I got up to, okay, I just started issue 32. So I didn't quite complete all of them.
go? Well, that's pretty good, actually. Moving right along.
It's it's a story that has potential in the hands of people who are gifted. But really, it's not really a great production generally. So far, Hellblazer. I don't know if it picks up in the future. Uh, for a lot of the early issues, the art was pretty horrible. It's the thing about a comic. It's there. It's not there to be anatomically perfect. It's there to express. And the faces, they're just blank and discordant. The very, very worst type of cartooning you can have.
Hmm.
And that was the earlier stuff. And the approach to the stories was just lackluster. So I don't know where it went to keep itself going, but I think the Family Man started to show, a a better level of, comic book. They borrowed an old detective story. Obviously, there's probably no originality whatsoever. It's probably some dusty paperback he found in a dime store somewhere. I thought, yeah, this beats any story I've created. And so that was good, had your good comic work, the faces had expression. But yeah, it's very patchy. It's like, they're changing the artists all the time.
Yeah.
And it's got to be a storyline that's got more potential than that, really, generally. Uh, like this is starting, this is picking up. This is what you expect, at the very least. Well, you look at the buildings here, this is nice. It's, nice sort of classical work. What do you reckon? This is more the level it should be continuously throughout the series.
Mm.
Okay, classic line. Some guy's got some guy tailing him, so he spends the night with a prostitute. Why not? They'll meet at dawn. He's got himself a Webley, one of the worst revolvers ever made, British Army. They originally had it in a 45, later on a 38. The 45 was reputedly a horrible thing to shoot. Okay, a bit of cat and mouse. And I need to see his face, to hear his voice, to know what he is. I need to be more personal. I need him to know that it was me, John Constantine, who chose to live with his death. Okay, he's a bit of a wake up. John's playing him, and John's a fool. Best laid plans of Constantine and mice go out the window. Oh, this is this is okay. This is fairly reasonable sort of comic work. Tells a story. It could be better. Yeah, such a variety of different art types were coming up.
Right. Yeah, well, yeah, one of the exigencies of corporate comics.
Excuse, what was that funny word you used?
Exigency, an urgent need or demand.
Well,
They
you
have
look
to
at
put
the,
out a comic every month. So, some artists are faster than other artists.
I mean, you just look at this one, this idealistic hippie BS that everything's achieved by going natural, and somehow when you go natural, you got superpowers and the underdog's dream, and it's BS. It's disjointed. It's a story that just doesn't flow.
Hmm.
What do you reckon?
Well, it does have a very good popular reputation, but it's not
Well, I
my
mean,
idea.
this particular issue, let's say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can tell what you're saying. It's doesn't excite me as a work of comics exactly. No.
So you've ventured into Hellblazer some time in the past, and you're repelled, were you?
Well, it did have a popular reputation, so I dipped into it, but I didn't continue reading it. Not like I would read like Neil Gaiman or Alan Moore.
Oh, okay. There's the mysteries sign of the Masons, cock and balls, male domination of the universe.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, the Masons don't allow female members.
right,
You have to be a man.
right.
Yeah. Apparently, women are the enemy.
Well, guess I shouldn't ask if you remember From Hell.
Oh, right, right. Yeah. They had a bit of the Masons in it, did it? Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just standard artwork that was common at the time for Vertigo, mid 90s. Yeah, it's a mid 90s Vertigo comic. Some moments of interest here and there, but on the whole, kind of just, run of the mill, work a day, artwork.
Wow. He gets carried away in a flood, picked up by a boat. That was the end of that story.
Yeah, a lot of artists I've never heard of and never got much of a name for themselves, but were just, generic
Well, the
journeyman artists. You have to put out an issue every month.
Jamie Delano, So he did stories 1 to 24, then 28 to 40, and virtually disappeared after that. So I'd be curious to see what the stories are like uh, after issue 40, I imagine. We've got another guy comes along called Garth Ennis.
That's right. I'm happy to continue as long as you like.
Yeah, I might continue with it. I was sort of thinking of throwing it in, but I'll continue with the hope that maybe it gets better. There's
Well,
some
yeah, there is an ending to this iteration of Constantine. We talked about that before. This iteration of John Constantine has an ending to his story, even though there's still John Constantine Hellblazer comics being published, but it's not the same. We talked about that before, remember?
You mean the end of this whole well, what is it?
This
300.
iteration of the character. We talked about that, remember?
All right, yeah, okay.
When you watch a James Bond movie that came out in the 1960s starring Sean Connery, and you watch a James Bond movie that came out last year, you notice, well, Sean Connery's passed on. It's not starring Sean Connery. But then you think to yourself, well, this is James Bond. So is this the same guy who starred in those movies back in the 60s? And then well, he couldn't be because he would have to be at at best he would be in his 80s, probably in his 90s by now. So there's no way he could be the same guy. But it's still the character James Bond. The character continues, even though there's no way the character that appears in this James Bond movie that came out this year could be the same guy that starred in those 60s movies. Couldn't be the same guy. And those are set in the present day, the ones today. But it's still James Bond. You understand? It's
Uh,
still the same character, but it can't be, it's a different James Bond. It can't be that James Bond.
well, we've got the character in this, which is based on Sting. So Sting was born around 1950, I think.
Yeah.
Uh, so
So there are,
Constantine is about
yeah.
38 when this starts,
Yeah.
and he's only
This
going to get older.
this iteration of Constantine does have an ending to his story, even though there's still John Constantine Hellblazer comics being published. But same character, but a different iteration of John Constantine.
Well, this particular run of comics, when did it go to? Uh,
Yeah, it will end eventually. I'm not sure what the. And then after that, they start up again with a new iteration of the character. Or like if you ever watched that Sherlock Holmes stories TV show starring Benedict Cumberbatch. You know, the original Doyle stories took place in the late 19th century, but the TV show Sherlock Holmes starring Benedict Cumberbatch took place in the present day. Couldn't be the same guy, but it's still Sherlock Holmes taking place in the present day.
yeah, I did sort of enjoy uh, his Moriarty in that particular one. You know, that sort of
Yeah.
moment when they confronted each other, and Moriarty was just a complete crazy, which actually goes against. I think the Moriarty in the story was uh,
Yeah.
somebody who was totally in control of himself. And then they wreck it in the second season when the Moriarty bumps himself off. I don't know what the story was there. Maybe the actor decided not going to be Moriarty,
Yeah.
and they just wrecked it. You've just killed his nemesis. What's the point anymore? He might as well retire.
Yeah, I think I watched the first season or two. Didn't keep up with it. But anyway, still the same character, Sherlock Holmes. But it couldn't be the same guy who was in those late 19th century stories. Anyway, hopefully that's understandable. There's still Constantine comics being published, but it's not the guy we're reading now. Same character, just different iteration.
Well, let's see. This run of comics went till rightio, 2013 is when it finished. Issue 300.
That might be. Yeah, that might be. Yeah.
Of
But, the
course.
people who came in after Delano, yeah, Ennis and I think some others, Mike Carey, I think some other people, they're reasonably well regarded as good writers.
Yeah, it's you got Carl Bark there. You read his Donald Donald Duck, and Uncle Scrooge, and it flows. There's nothing out of place in Carl Bark's work. Like he probably had a tremendous sense of dedication, which you don't always get.
Yeah.
It looks like some of these guys, maybe they partied one night, didn't get up until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They start
It's
doing botch work.
yeah. It seems to me that a lot of North American comics, which is basically Marvel and DC, mainstream Marvel, DC, North American comics, was taking their uh, uh, inspiration from EC Comics. And of course, those were some of the greatest artists who ever worked in the medium. And it was kind of a lackluster imitation of those earlier EC creators and artists. But you could see it's several generations removed from that spark of brilliance that EC Comics was. But they're still trying to do that with, layout and anatomy to emulate that style. But of course, the artists 2 or 3 generations from that just are not as talented, even though they're still trying to imitate that style.
Well, there seems to be a problem. It's sort of like music, isn't it? You used to have the top 40, and there was a lot of bouncy, good stuff in the top 40 up until about the mid 80s, and then it died.
Yeah.
Really, it's good stuff was very far between after that. Uh, Maybe just the way the big business moved in, Sony, big business went into areas which, like comics, hadn't been big business really. It had just been small business. Then big business thought there's a few dollars. I'm out there to vacuum all the dollars in the world, so they get into it. And it's like Sony with music, you know,
Mm.
they can control the market and you have no choice anymore. You go and buy anything, you're going to buy our stuff, and it doesn't have to be good anymore. So 1950s EC comics.
Well,
You think that was as fairly outstanding. Yeah, it's a bit like, yeah, we have discussed that before with, of course, the Bugs Bunny show. Uh, when they had the studio, that was their best stuff. But when they no longer had the resources of studio, by the early 60s, the Bugs Bunny stuff went a bit downhill. The studio just must have had access to professionals at every angle that were pretty good. They could do really good work. Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't fancy some. Yeah, I would probably fancy some EC horror or Gold Key horror, the old stuff. What do you think of that?
Yeah. I mean, as soon as we clear out a lot of the backlog, we'll definitely get to a lot of that. But yeah, I mean,
Eccentricities, right. I have to study the pronunciation.
well, here. I'm about to share my screen, so be prepared. In three, two, one. I mean, they had some of the greatest of all time, some of the greatest who ever were. Basil Wolverton, Wally Wood. Well, you can read it there. Krigstain, Johnny Craig, Reed Crandall, Al Williamson, Frank Frazetta, for goodness sake. I mean, they were certainly some of the all stars in the, at least in North American comics.
Yeah, well, it was a very long run. So they went from 88 to 2013. Reflected an era when a lot of money was going into the comic world. It was a big business. There was dollars that were looking for any sort of product.
But it did kind of warp the trajectory of mainstream comics for several generations because everybody after EC was trying to emulate that style and not quite getting it to that level.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll bring up some EC comics you think demonstrate the point.
Well, we've done we've done Ray Bradbury so far.
So yeah, we've got a number of eras here. So Jamie Delano, Garth Ennis, Paul Jenkins, Warren Ellis, Brian Azzarello, Mike Carey, Denise Mina, Andy Diggle, Peter Milligan, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to see when it was at its best. I certainly haven't seen the best so far.
Well, yeah, it was just general, if you read the other Vertigo comics around at the time, it was all pretty much at the same standard of the level of artwork. Just, what you would expect from mid 90s Vertigo.
Yeah, well, it was the colour of money. There was just so much money pouring around the world in the 80s. There was looking for a place to go. 90s, it was they were encouraging everybody to save money for retirement. And of course, that was just abuse, but the public doesn't realise it. And all that money is looking for a place to go, and they're willing to buy any product.
Yeah, generally uninspired, but some nice points here and there, like David Lloyd.
David Lloyd, he's an artist, is he?
Well, he did. Which issue did David Lloyd do for Hellblazer? '25 and '26. David Lloyd did '25 and '26. I mean, I thought, just talking about the art, I thought that was quite nice. Well, because it's David Lloyd. Mhm. Right. There you go. Well, he didn't do the cover. There you go. I thought that was,
Well, I think
yeah.
I did notice this as an improvement on what had been going before.
Yeah, I mean David Lloyd. He's always excellent. He's always good. Mm. So that's what I'm saying. On the whole, pretty uninspired, but some bright spots here and there. David Lloyd being one of the bright spots. Yeah, very nice. Very nice work.
Okay, this is where his girlfriend shows up again. Jesus Christ, John. Do you have to do that?
Yeah.
Well, you got this, this version, this is the original Constantine, and you're comparing with Canal Reeves, choir boy in the movie. Not that this John Constantine was never a choir boy. He probably was at one stage.
Constantine's still a pretty popular character to this day. I mean, his comics are still being published, and of course he got a one season TV show.
Okay, I forgot about the TV show. I don't think I've ever seen it.
I watched the first episode and didn't watch any others. And he's still around today.
Oh, well, as an unusual character, I'm just a big baby.
Yeah, the general critical assessment of Delano's Hellblazer is that it's a very high quality, well written horror comic. That's the general consensus on that one.
And I sort of look at it as being a bit of a botched job.
Hmm. Not sure how highly I would rank it on my greatest comics of all time list. Oh, that's right. This wasn't Delano writing. This was Grant Morrison writing. We've read, I know, at least one Grant Morrison thing in the past. I'm sure you wouldn't be able to name what what it was.
Oh, I watched another one of Scott's movie recommendations.
Hmm.
Uh, Midsummer, the 2019 film, which I'd hadn't bothered with. Well, it's a little bit curious. So it's a retelling of The Wicker Man on steroids, I suppose. But I'd still say I preferred the first Wicker Man. There was the second one, which was okay, but it didn't have quite the charm of the first movie. And Midsummer, have you ever seen Midsummer?
No, I haven't.
It's worth seeing.
Hmm.
It's a flawed creation, but visually it's very impressive. I think there's a very, very nice visual power in it. I can see Scott probably was, dropping substances while he was watching it and probably getting the maximum benefit. The storyline, well, a little bit fractured. There was potential in the storyline, but it was just not really, not really brought out that well. So I assume you've seen the original of The Wicker Man, since that's one of the famous horror movies of all time, I suppose.
I have seen the original, yeah, Wicker Man.
He was saving himself for the right woman.
Yeah, Britt Eklund was in Wicker Man.
She was a temptation to make sure he hadn't departed from virginity.
Yeah, right. And Christopher Lee. But yeah,
Actually,
I've seen it.
she was quite convincing in that. Usually Britt Eklund was a pretty rather awful actress, if you ask me. But she played. Well, maybe they dubbed her voice because her voice did sound very Gaelic. So I assume they dubbed her voice. So that's might have been why it worked.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what happened. They dubbed her voice. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember her and Chris Christopherson in Battlestar Galactica. It's rather uninspired performance. The original Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
Okay, this is the F5, which it's not quite what an F5 looks like. You can tell from the detail. This based this on the Northrop Freedom Fighter. That probably just doesn't know planes that well. That's trouble. You can be a good artist,
Sure.
but you'd have to appreciate jet fighters to really do your best. Well, he
Yeah.
likes naked girls by the looks of things. Does a nice job.
Yeah. This is not Delano doing the script. This is
Yeah,
Grant Morrison doing the script.
maybe Delano had a nervous breakdown, had to take a holiday.
As I say, every month an issue has to be out. And if the writer's late, if the artist's late, something is going to get published. It's a machine. You can't stop. Grant Morrison was the scripter writer of Kid Eternity, if you remember that one, and The Smile of the Absent Cat, if you remember that one.
I remember something about the smile of the absent cat.
We did both of those a number of years ago.
Well, this is issue 10, going back a way. Yeah, even this, I just don't like this sort of,
Psychedelia.
yeah. The astral plane's got to be a bit more subtle than this.
It's always a bit of a problem how you can depict higher realms or higher states
Oh, right. This is the
visually.
demon he battled that came to sort of fruition.
Right.
Oh, right. Okay. This is the girl out of Swamp Thing. Is it?
Uh, yes, I think you're right about that. Abby, Abigail Arcane from Swamp Thing. Yeah, that's right. And there he is right there.
Yeah, Matali is doing violin again. She's doing a lesson on Sundays, then trying to keep up during the week. She'd probably be better off going back to illustrations, I think. The violins, it's a very hard instrument. I knew my ex's stepmother worked in an orchestra, and you have to constantly practice just to maintain uh, your uh, level of ability. If you don't, so I think it's half hour twice daily,
I've heard that.
maybe one day a week you get off.
I've heard that. Of all the instruments, violin is the hardest. I've heard people say that. This is a beginner's guide. But the main thing, I can send this if you're interested in reading this. The main thing is the list of foods, which is here. On the left are very high oxalate foods, and on the right is very low oxalate foods. So in my case, I need to stay away from column A and focus entirely on column B. And that's what I intend to be doing.
If I had to, I could. I have no plans of following an oxalate diet. I'm just, is there stuff here I avoid?
Well, in
Okay.
my case, I don't have a choice. I mean, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life like this.
This is similar to the sort of stuff that a Gumtree would suggest avoiding. So I followed his arguments a bit.
But I mean, the surprise for me is stuff that you always are told are healthy, and I was just flooding my body with oxalates, carrots, celery, spinach, artichoke, potatoes, beets. You think that that's healthy. Almonds, but it's blackberries, raspberries. You're always told all eat all that stuff because it's really healthy. But look at me. It's caused the problems that I've been having for years now
The
because it
other
was just
thing
so high in oxalates.
Gundry warns about is you can have a good food and it's okay to have so much of it, but if you have an excess of it, it can become bad for you. So let's say walnuts. You can have a small amount of walnuts a week, and it's got some elements in it which are very useful. But maybe if you ate too many of them, the benefits aren't really there, and you get negative things. But what's the role of oxalates in food? Is it
Yeah.
what's it meant to do? Is it meant to keep the bugs at bay, or
No, it's well, again, if you're interested, yeah, I can give you the book. But no, it's a naturally occurring substance in food, chemical in food. But it's just, you're just getting a toxic dose. And in my case, well, gave me colitis.
all right? Oxalates are called anti-nutrients because they bind to minerals, including sodium, potassium, and calcium, prevent your body from absorbing them. Toxicity toxicity's been known about since the 19th century. So this looks like an element that's in plants is what Gundry was warning about, was the elements in plants which are pest controls.
Here is the book that I have. I'm slowly reading my way through it. If you're interested, I can send it to you.
Oh, don't worry too much. It's probably no point. Uh,
Well, I mean, if you're if you're in a good place health wise, yeah, count yourself lucky because I've learned over the last 18 months. Yeah, people have said if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And that's true. Everybody talks about all the great things in life, finances, career, relationships. Everything is built on a foundation of good health. And if that foundation goes, you don't have anything. And I've come to realize that.
so
Everything is
you've
built on
been
health.
troubled for how long? Did you say 1.5 years or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, as keep saying, I went through it was more like 4 months of just terribleness, and it went away, and I don't ever want to experience that again. But I'd like to get, to a place where this is not an issue anymore, and I'm confident that by following this plan, this program, I can get back there. It's going to take a while, but
Yeah, well, spinach. I imagine spinach is high in oxalates, is it?
extremely high. Yeah.
Mm. And
But
that's
the book gives numbers. I've got everything in numbers, and you just follow the numbers. Obviously you could never get down to zero, but you just don't want a toxic overload.
now Gundry was claiming, according to his research, that the ancients had discovered ways of taking foods like that, which were potentially bad, and processing them in some way which eliminated the bad elements or reduced them. But the modern world doesn't do that because it's time consuming and expensive. Usually means storing the food in some form and a certain way for a while.
So here, if you just follow the table, you see it's color coded. Green is very well right there. You see it right there. Green is low, yellow is medium, orange is high, pink is very high, and red is no bueno. But you see, just follow the tables, and it's pretty extensive.
One he warned against was kale, which is popular with a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it was eye opening to me to realize that's pretty much all I was eating was high oxalate foods. I mean, I just didn't know. I didn't know. No one ever talks about this.
Well, you got a point there. No one really talks carefully about mental psychic conditions and how do you deal with them. Well, there's a way you deal with
There's
them now.
spinach.
You take some legal speed and just plod on. That's what a lot of people do. So what's your body trying to tell you when you're down, when you suffer various types of mental, physical conditions, which they're going to sweep out of the way with modern drugs
Right.
to numb the pain.
That's right. There's spinach right there. Look at that. Extraordinary. And
It's
sure,
the great health food.
I was eating a
I,
lot of spinach.
yeah, I avoid it now after, listening to Gundry. I said that's one that's,
Look at that. Beet. Everybody says beets are healthy, but look at how high in oxalates they are.
well, beets are the ones that have got the red coloured sort of dye in them, is it? High in sugar, used to be a source of sugar.
Uh, well, most fruits generally are high in sugar. That's just the way fruits are. Yeah.
This is we'll look up Kale. This is Natalia's aunt. Natalia's aunt has got arthritis. She's in the she's sort of slimish and fit, but she's got arthritis now, and she just eats kale all the time. And this was one of the ones Gundry warned against. No, it doesn't come up on the oxalate list. Oh, okay. Raw or boiled. So boiling it reduces the amount of oxalate.
Yeah, that's true. And the same goes for like, things like green peas and asparagus, things like that. You can
Yeah,
lower.
well, I used to get string beans, so I don't get them anymore. What do string beans come up as?
I don't
Uh,
think.
Peppers was the other thing. I'll just, get bell peppers.
Yeah, I think, yeah, string beans. They're medium in the somewhere in the teens and 20s by and large.
Well, all that healthy hippie food. What do eggs come up as?
Oh, eggs are very low oxalate. Eggs are low oxalate.
Well, okay. Well, that's this week. I think I better move on to the next group.
Sure. Rick certainly is moving quite along with the program, which is good. I don't know if you noticed, he got into a conversation on the last YouTube.
Oh, you mean the last meeting?
Yeah, but if you go to the YouTube post
Oh, you mean the
for
comment
last week
section?
and check the comments, Rick, you may or may not be interested.
Oh, okay. I'll just see if I can give that a look. So much to do these days. Okay, thanks a lot, David. I'll
Okay. All
see you next time.
right, Steven.